Good Monday morning, church family. This is the What I Wish I'd Said podcast for yesterday. The message that Pastor Seth gave us from almost the end, kind of the middle of chapter 7 in Matthew. He talked about false prophets. He talked about false disciples, fruit, right? Like how can we bear good fruit? And how can we be careful that we're not bearing bad fruit? It was a great message, and I just love the last 2 weeks, as Pastor Bridget and Pastor Seth both have mentioned, again, like towards the end of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus started with blessings, but he's ending with warnings. This is the part of the Sermon on the Mount where you and I should be leaning in, not pulling back, right? And the temptation is to kind of pull back and say, I'm not sure if I buy all that. But when Jesus is talking and he starts saying, like, watch out for these things, we need to be watching out for those things. And so today, what I want to highlight is just that part of the message where Jesus says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. That should get our attention right away. Because how many of us hear people say, oh, Jesus is Lord, and then we inspect their lives. We look at the fruit and we're like, I'm not really sure. This is important. So he goes on to say, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. I think it's important, and Seth kind of highlighted this yesterday, it's important to ask ourselves, well, what is the will of the Father? Right? Like, if that's the thing we've got to do, what is it? I think he tells us at the end when he says, I didn't know you. The will of the Father is that we would be known by him and by others, that there would be no secrets. Think back to the Garden of Eden, right? When he created Adam and then he created Eve and he gave them free reign of the garden. What's the first thing that happened after they sinned? They hid, right? They covered themselves up. The will of God is that we would have no covering over our lives, that we would not feel like we have to hide or like pull the covers over our head or pull the shades down. God's will is that we would not live in secrecy, but that we would live in community, right? This is really important. So then he goes on to say, you'll say to me, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not drive out demons in your name? They're saying, like, look at the things we did, look at our activity, but activity apart from intimacy is not the will of God. There are people that are doing great things, but they're not known deeply by God or by others. And I made a note when I was taking notes yesterday, when Seth got to this part, that the knowing that happens in secret with the Father, but also in community with the church, right? And it's not like everybody gets to know all of our stuff. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is it's community that helps us recognize if we have the fruit of the Spirit in our lives. Check this out. These people were doing the works of the Spirit, but they weren't displaying the fruit of the Spirit. That's so important. Do you know people like that? I mean, don't point them out. Don't type their name in the comments. Maybe just pray for them and maybe pray for ourselves, because I'm sure all of us fall into this from time to time, where we're doing the works of Jesus, but we're not displaying the character of Jesus. I know people who cast out demons because of the authority of the name of Jesus, but the people that cast out the demons are jerks. They are angry. They do not display kindness and joy and patience and self-control. They come across like bullies. And I don't think that's what God's after. Now, I'm not condemning them to a life apart, an eternity apart from Jesus. That's between God and them. God will be the judge of that. But I am saying that there's a thin line between doing the works of the Spirit and not displaying the fruit of the Spirit. And I would say this, if we will lean into the fruits of the Spirit, God, let those be evident in my life. He will put us in positions to do the works of the Spirit. And when we do, we will take no credit for it, right? We'll be like the other people that asked questions of the Lord on Judgment Day. Those people that were in Matthew, I think it's chapter 25, where they're like, but Lord, when did we do that for you? When did we see you in prison and visit you? When did we see you hungry and feed you? When did we see you naked and clothe you? And he said this, when you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. People who are doing that kind of work and not recognizing that they should get any kind of credit for it are people who have developed the fruit of the Spirit. They've allowed that to be developed in their lives. And I want to encourage you this week, ask the Lord, especially as we start these 3 weeks of fasting ahead of Encounter. You'll notice that the countdown right there at the bottom right, I think, of your screen. Man, as we're spending the next 20 days, 21 days, whatever, of August and the 1st of September, preparing our hearts, like, God, please reveal the fruit of the Spirit in my life. Make me the kind of person who can do the works of the Spirit and still display the fruit of the Spirit so that I won't rob any of the glory from the Spirit. I hope that settles for you today in your heart. And once again, y'all, great job by Pastor Seth and Pastor Bridget. The last 2 weeks have been phenomenal. I can't wait to start to wrap up the Sermon on the Mount series over the next 2 Sundays as we head into Encounter. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.